is. Some of us will have more severe trauma, such as rape, or such as being mugged, or anything of that nature. And some of us will have a lesser trauma, such as our boyfriend cheating on us or our girlfriend cheating on us and breaking our hearts. So there are levels to trauma. There's severity to trauma. But guys, what we experienced last week is considered racial trauma. So what exactly is racial trauma? It's unique in that it involves ongoing individual and collective injuries due to exposure and re-exposure to race-based stress. So racial trauma causes hidden wounds that are passed down generationally. We have all heard that we have to be twice as good, or that the rules are different for us. At the core of those messages, and these are the messages that our community tells us. This isn't anything that we've ever heard any other race tell us. These are messages that we hear from our community. Because what it has become is a coping mechanism for us, as a way to keep us motivated to be our best. But at the core of those messages, it suggests that we fundamentally are not enough, that we must go over and beyond to even be noticed. Now, this is no slight to our ancestors, to our parents, to our caretakers who have passed this down. No slight to them. But it is the reality, and it is a barrier that we have in social justice. So I really want to talk about the symptoms of racial trauma. It's important to recognize the symptoms of racial trauma so that you are aware of why you are feeling or behaving in a certain manner. Unfortunately, racial trauma carries psychological and physiological effects, such as hypervigilance to threat or anxiety, flashbacks. And if I can be really honest and open with you guys right now, for the life of me, I wish that I never watched the video of George Floyd losing his life. I wish that I never watched it, because what I can't get out of my mind is him crying for his mother, and then finding out that his mother passed 2 years ago yesterday. This 6'6", he was 6'6", 6'5", he was a tall man crying for his mother. And in that moment, all that I can think about, the flashback that I keep having about watching that video, is how much despair he must have been in for him to be calling out to his mother, who was no longer on this earth. Nightmares. If you've ever been violated in any kind of way, more than likely, you will experience nightmares. It is human nature. It is unfortunate, but it is a reality of trauma. And it is absolutely a reality of racial trauma. Avoidance. I'll give you an example of that. My husband is 6'5", he's about 250 pounds solid, and he will not go to certain venues. He will not go to large crowds. He will not go certain places, because he knows that his physical presence represents him as being a threat. And I bet if we all just kind of think about how we live our life, we have all avoided some things because of the color of our skin and things that may happen. And we don't even recognize it, because that's how we have coped in life with this idea of racial trauma. That's how we have coped with the idea of being judged by our skin tone. Suspiciousness. We are always looking at motives. We are looking at motives of what other races are doing. And for good reason. Think about the Tuskegee experiment. Think about situations in where we have been treated or discarded because of another race feeling very superior to us. Somatic expressions such as headaches and heart palpitations. When I talk about heart palpitations, really think about panic attacks. And guys, I have a dog, so I apologize. He gets excited and barks, so I apologize. Heart palpitations. Think about panic attacks. And if you've never had a panic attack, let me explain to you what that feels like. You become disoriented. Your heart is pounding. You have shortness of breath. You feel dizzy. And you feel like your whole world is turned upside down. It literally mimics a heart attack. And unfortunately, racial trauma can cause panic attacks, rage. Last week, a week ago today, I was filled with rage. 4 separate incidents of where a race was weaponized. From the lady in the park with her dog who called the police on the Black man because he asked her to follow the rules. And she began to escalate that this Black man was threatening her and her dog, and even harming her dog in the process so that it could sound real, like she was really being threatened by this Black man. That incident, of course, what happened in Minneapolis, Mr. Floyd, that incident. But there were 2 other incidents that people weren't really talking about. The incident of the white married minister who met someone on Craigslist, was looking for sex on Craigslist, met someone at the hotel, and they robbed him. And he decided to make it seem like he was kidnapped and robbed by Black men because of the shame. And then the final incident, all of this happened Monday. The final incident was the mother who killed her own son, her autistic son, by throwing him in the lake, and created this story that her son was kidnapped by 2 Black men. I was enraged, justifiably enraged, because it was just too much in one day. Too much of our race being weaponized, too much of other races knowing that they can say this Black person did this, and it's going to send the cavalry. And because that's what they think about us, nobody's really going to question whether these people are telling the truth or not. I was enraged, feeling devalued and voiceless, going back to watching the video of the murder last week, and feeling voiceless in this moment is the only way that I could actually describe the bystanders who were recording and trying to save him, begging to save him. Yet they knew that if they got any closer to those police officers, that more than likely their lives would be in jeopardy as well. They would have been shot, tasered, who knows? But that fear of their own life caused them to not be able to react, to save another life. And unfortunately, I can only imagine what that felt like for them in that moment, to see someone's life literally taking right in front of them, and feeling helpless, and feeling as if they couldn't do anything about it. And then feeling helpless and hopeless. In the psychological world, it's really the idea of feeling depressed, basically. And it is something that happens every time we hear these incidents. We all go to a place of feeling like, oh my gosh. So when we are out here looting and rioting, fundamentally, I understand it because we are fed up. We're tired of it. We all want peace. We all want for this to end. So these are our symptoms, some of the symptoms of racial trauma. And I can't talk about these symptoms without absolutely having a conversation about how to care for yourself, self-care. So if you are experiencing severe difficulty in functioning in your everyday life due to anxiety or overwhelming depression, please do not hesitate to reach out to a licensed mental health professional in your community. APA.org is a great place to start to look for a therapist. Here's the caveat though. Not all therapists are equal. It's like finding the perfect shoe. And you know, sometimes you have to try a couple on before you find the one that you like. So I encourage you not to give up on yourself if you have a bad experience with one therapist. Don't judge us all by that one person. Do the due diligence of asking questions. Ask them if they are culturally competent to deal with your needs when you were looking for your therapist. That is your right. Those are your patient's rights. And you can ask those questions. So feel free to ensure that you do that so that you make sure that you are getting the best care that you could possibly get. Reduce how much media you are consuming that keep exposing you to racial trauma. I think it was Friday night. Was it Friday night? It was either Friday night or Saturday night. I literally had to turn off CNN. It was Friday night. Literally had to turn off CNN because of the rioting. And then seeing that my family's in Georgia and my sister has a business in Atlanta, and seeing that her business, she's right on Peachtree Street in Atlanta. As you guys know, that street was almost completely just ransacked to the point to where they were trying to drive cars into stores. They burned down the CVS, I believe. And so my sister's business was vandalized. And so feeling angry and upset and hurt for my sister, my brother-in-law, my nephew, who were there trying to protect their livelihood, and understanding where all this rage was coming from. It was all too much. And I just had to shut things down and I had to reset. So it is absolutely okay to protect your peace. You want to take the time to express what you are truly feeling about this current situation. Take off the mask and have your emotional moment. You are allowed to. And I say that because I've seen so many people say that they had to get on their Zoom meetings this week and act as if nothing has happened. We got to stop doing that because we're becoming complicit in the problem. We're allowing them to just glaze over it because we aren't speaking out about it, because we aren't showing our disdain about it, because we are not showing that we are visibly hurt. And it's okay to have your emotional moment. Feel it, acknowledge it, acknowledge how it makes you feel. Anger, sadness, fear, it is all justified. We go through this it's just been so much. Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. It's just been so much in just the last couple of weeks. We are not okay. And it's okay to not be okay, because it is not natural to see people die so tragically. It is unnatural. So nothing is wrong with you if you are feeling a way about this situation. Have your moment, feel your moment, go through your moment. It is your right to. It is your right to your feelings. You have a right to have your feelings validated. Connect with your emotional support system. Every Friday night since we've been in quarantine, I talk to my best friends, and we can have on this app called Duo, and we have been on the phone for 4 to 6 hours. But last Friday was really needed because we all needed to decompress. We all needed to talk about how we were feeling, what we were feeling, how we were afraid for our husbands, how we were afraid for our kids, how we were afraid for ourselves. And it was great to have that conversation. And it was great to have my emotional support. Just as on Sundays, I talk to my extended family and we play games to get through this. We've been playing these games on our Zooms to get through this quarantine, but even more so to get through what has transpired in this last week. So it's okay to connect with your emotional support system. Indulge in creativity. Thank God for verses because Sunday, Fred Hammond and Kurt Franklin was everything that I needed to quell what I had been feeling. So indulge in all of that. D Nice has amazing Instagram parties at Club Quarantine. Get your groove on or have game night with your family. It is okay to shift your focus. It does not mean that you are less Black, that you don't care about the cause, and that you are apathetic to what is going on. It does not mean that at all. It means that you are making you a priority to take care of yourself because you recognize in that moment that's what you need to do for you. Meditation, prayer, or mindfulness techniques also reduce anxiety. Meditation is real, prayer is real, and mindfulness techniques are real. It is physically impossible to be anxious and relaxed at the same time. So when you find yourself becoming anxious, take in some deep breaths, do some deep breathing to calm yourself down. Become present with yourself. Meditate, prayer. It is all okay to do to take care of you. And I want to express that we are not helpless. Even though it feels as if we are, and it feels that we are going through so much and that no one is hearing us. And goodness, we do not have any leadership. I mean, we aren't the man that's in office 45 when he is quoting when the looting starts, shooting starts, inciting violence. It just feels like it's a helpless place. But the reality, guys, is that we are not. We are not helpless. So the other question to that is that many will ask, how do we heal? And I'm so glad that that is a question that's out there, because we heal by empowering ourselves and rechanneling our rage. We have to challenge the status quo. We must infiltrate the system, guys. We can no longer not be a part of the conversation. We are not powerless. In as much as they want us to think that we are not. We have to play the long game here. So we need to put our judges, district attorneys, council members, senators, and other local politicians in play and on notice. We have to play their game. They groom their kids young on a succession plan, which is why it feels as if we are light years behind the ball. These local politicians, they work for us. The police work for us. Our taxes pay their salaries. So if we aren't going to become the people in charge, then we need to be ready to demand what we need from them. That means that we make our presence known. Your mayor, council member, local government officials, chief of police, or at least the local captain at your precinct should know you by name. We have to advocate for what we need. Your advocacy can be as simple as calling your alderman, your council member biweekly to see if they are meeting the needs of our community and keeping those promises that they promised us when they wanted our vote. The protests, the marches, they all have their place. They do. History has shown that these marches have been great moments in history. But being known positively in your community protects your character. So when they try to disparage your name, your work, your advocacy will stand up for you. We are the only culture, the only race that gets blamed for us being victims. They comb through everything, our social media, police work, they comb through everything to find the negative on us. So that means that we also have to hold our own selves accountable. We also have to be good citizens. We also have to show up for our race. So before we close, I never like to leave without giving a resource, because I think it's important that you know what's out there for you. And if you are experiencing some of these emotional difficulties that I spoke about earlier, then I want you to know that in any city in America, you can dial 211 for your local resources. It's as simple as dialing 911. It's just 211. And you will be connected to the local resources that are in your area. So I hope that this was a great way to spend our time. And I think, Ben, now we are going to open up for questions.